you can start getting to your seat, and we'll give a few minutes. We're waiting on just one or two more people. All right, you all, just to be thoughtful of time, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. We hope there's a few folks that we think might be joining, but they can just join in and catch up with us as we go. And we have a few visitors. So I just want to be thoughtful of that. So I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Mayor's Task Force on Homelessness for the March 11th date. And I would like for folks to look at the minutes, and I need an approval of those minutes when you have a chance. All right, I have a motion to approve and I have a second. Is there any questions or any comments, additions, corrections? All right, do I have a motion to approve? Oh, I don't have to? That was it. We're good. We're voting now. We're voting now. All right, all those in favor say aye. Any abstentions? All right, approved. I want to bring your all's attention that the next date, which is April 15th, we are going to have a location date and a time change due to Easter. So we're moving the next task force meeting to April 15th. And this meeting will actually be held at the Pam Miller Downtown Art Center in the Lowenthal Room on the 3rd floor. So I just want to bring your attention. We'll definitely send you announcements about that closer to the date, but I just want to put that on your radar that the next meeting will be April 15th. Same time? Same time. Yes, 3:30. Thank you. All right. The next, I think we're going to kind of get right into committee meetings. I did want to kind of talk about two things that did happen in between this meeting. We did do a tour of the shelters, and we also did for folks that wanted to, we also did a poverty immersion activity that the Community Action put on, and several of the task force folks attended that. And I was hoping, actually, if you're fine with it, Reverend McFarland, if you could just take a few minutes and talk of your experience at the poverty immersion program.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It was quite an experience to be a part of the poverty simulation, experiencing that allowed many leaders in our city to grapple with the indecisiveness of people who are in transition to homelessness and not necessarily homeless. And one of the outcomes is that we begin to wrestle with that people who are experiencing homelessness are making great effort not to be in that situation. But it is also the services that we have in the city, the resources that we have to be able to assist people who are in need. And sometimes those things are not sufficient to be able to prevent people from being in a place of homelessness. It was sort of jocular and joyous to be together and get in these acting modes. We all had different names. Some of us play fathers and mothers and children, and having to take children to school and go to the grocery store and go to social services. And we all realized that circumstances were not just in our favor. And I believe my family experienced being evicted. I had a family of 5, and this is just a scenario. I had a family of 5, and once we got evicted, when we went to the shelter, they would only take 4 family members. So that left me as the father, leaving my family in the shelter, and then me having to find out where I was going to go and rest my head. It was very stressful, very emotional, but I think that it brought us all to a place that we needed to understand. And I think this was one of the questions that I even asked in our first subcommittee meeting. If I was homeless, what would I do? And so that experience last week helped us to understand the realities that many families are in, and it is not necessarily their fault. Many things are circumstantial, and it also showed that as we are planning in this task force, the hard work that we need to do to make sure that we put all the resources in place to address this situation, because there are so many families who are depending on us and city government to make the right decisions to assist in these efforts. Because the truth is, just from what we experience, people are truly suffering, and to know that children are in this position and that they're going to school with these realities every day, not knowing what they're going to eat at home, and that school is their only meal. This is what we experienced just by participating in this event last week. It brought so many people to tears, and some of our mates were participating on the side of social services where they couldn't give people help because they didn't fit the criteria. And so people are going to places where they can get help, but then they are denied help because of a certain criteria, whether that's they don't have an ID or they don't have a social security number. All these things are causing people to be turned away. So it was, it was wonderful to experience it, but at the same time, it was something that gave us the realization that people are in desperate need, and this is a crisis that we must address as we are doing. Thank you, Diane.
Reverend, thank you so much. And TC, I really want to thank you for putting that together. And Community Action did a fabulous job. If you ever have an experience to do that, I highly recommend you take an opportunity to do it. The other thing we did was a tour of the shelters and some of the day centers around Fayette County. And I was hoping, Judge Gunther, you attended that tour, and I was hoping you could spend a few minutes talking about your experience.
Thank you, Diane. On February the 26th, we went to 5 we took the homeless shelters tour. We went to 5 different locations. The first one was New Life Day Center, which is a daytime shelter and a resource hub. They serve daily donuts, sometimes meals. They have a health clinic on site, some employment resources, case management, that sort of thing. But what was striking is that that's a hub where people who are unhoused store their items. So they have lockers, and the majority of the space is filled with lockers, and there's a waiting list. So that was striking, that that's their address where they use for mail. Of course, they have television, internet, hygiene products. The second place that we went was to the Salvation Army. And that's also a transitional, emergency and transitional housing facility. But what was striking for all of us is they only had 19 rooms for families. And you cannot house a family with single moms and children. And so clearly that's not sufficient. It's just not sufficient. And of course, it's a great resource hub as well. They have case management, but case management can be declined. And they do stretch their resources to accommodate people in inclement weather. The third stop, which I was most impressed with, was the Lexington Rescue Mission, and they are really a one-stop shop. They have the Isaiah House Medical Community Health Center there. They have a full dental office, full medical office on site. They have a MICA Legal is there where you can get legal services on a sliding scale. Jubilee Jobs is on site, clothing, furniture, anything to help you get into transitional housing, and they even help financially when they can. They are a conduit to get you into transitional housing. Of course, they have houses all over the place, and so they help you do that. It's faith-based, of course, meals. So that to me was the most impressive, but it's not a place where you can go and stay. The fourth place, which was the most heartbreaking for me, as you know, was the Hope Center. And of course, they have a veteran side. But the other space is for men. And on this particular day, the weather was bad, so they didn't make the visitors leave the facility during the day like they normally would. And they were just all over the place. They were all over the place trying to rest. We're standing over them. It's just not enough space to accommodate. And even if that was during the day, when we asked, well, how do you house them in the evening? Right where they are, they put mats on the floor. So it's just not adequate space, even for men. And I know that it may be considered that men have more, places and resources than families and women, but there's probably more men that are unhoused, particularly like Reverend McFarland said, sometimes you have to make a choice. And usually the man can go someplace else and the family can be accepted. So it's clearly not enough space. The last place we went to was the Hope Village, which is the winter shelter that the city, erects during the bad weather. And it was good. It was good. I think that we don't just have bad weather in winter months, though. And I understand there's a cost to, having that year round or doing, the more severe summer months. So what we took away from it is that there's not enough places for someone to have an easy night's rest and feel safe and secure.
Thank you so much, Judge, for highlighting that trip. It was really powerful for the folks that attended. And Charlie, thank you so much for you and your team putting that tour together for us. We also, in between subcommittee times, we also met with chairs of subcommittees to kind of hone in to make sure that everybody feels like we're working towards the same direction. So we did have a meeting, and I think out of that, just really briefly, because we do have somebody with Volunteers of America that would like to present in a small exercise, but we kept going back to the report that EHI put out, that was a really valuable report. We need to keep going back and revisiting that. I think it also became clear from the Finance Committee folks is we're kind of ready to take the ball and run, but we kind of need to know what we're running with. So having those conversations of what are the priority areas, because we can't probably do everything all at once. So what are the priority needs? Is it families? Is it person with disabilities? Is it our aging folks? Is it children? Is it men? Like what does that look like? And what services does this group find are probably the most priority, which part of the exercise I think that we're going to talk about might kind of lend a little conversation around. And so that we wanted to bring those two committees, the model shelter program and the services prevention committees together to have that conversation so that the finance folks could really kind of take that and run with it. So we're excited about that. And I think from that, this has led to something that Charlie and Jeff through their office wanted to work on, and we're calling it actually a homeless service bucket exercise. So if you all can lead that, that would be fabulous.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diane. So we continually have been coming up against kind of three general areas that we see needs within our system. And that is on a scale from light touch to heavy touch. And this kind of aligns with the types of homelessness that people experience. So we've talked a lot about light touch situations where maybe somebody just experienced something situational like a job loss or a medical emergency. We've talked about individuals that have systemic factors that cause them to experience episodic homelessness, kind of coming in and out of homelessness continually. Oftentimes it's going to be people that are on a fixed income, or families with children that might just have more persons to feed and clothe and house. But we recognize that they have some ongoing challenges. And then we know that we have those that are going to be our more chronically homeless individuals that have significant barriers, usually 2 or more. This is going to be things like serious mental illness, chronic health conditions, substance use disorder. And so as we look to have these subcommittees work towards getting us more concrete recommendations, we wanted to make sure that they have your input in that process. This exercise is intended for you to be able to give us recommendations in each of these 3 buckets or categories. And by making it electronic, you can use the QR codes on your handout or on the screen. Each one of those buckets has its own QR code. It's an open-ended response you can share with us. You know, we've now heard many presentations. Several of the subcommittees have brought examples and case studies to us. If there's something that has struck a chord with you, or that strikes a chord with you during the committee report outs later on today, bring up those QR codes and put in your response. You are able to submit more than 1 response. You also have the ability to see in live time responses from other participants. And you have the ability to cast up to 3 votes. So if you see something that is already listed that you are going to recommend, you don't have to duplicate it. You can just give it a vote. Or if there's something that maybe just really you strongly agree with, you can also vote for that item. At the close of the meeting, we'll spend some time reviewing the recommendations. And if you need to, if you have any difficulties, the links are also listed, or you can raise a hand and myself or Adam from my office can come over and try to help you navigate. Open to any questions that you might have on that. But again, we just wanted to give opportunities for the full task force and advisors to help our subcommittees as they begin the process towards finalizing concrete recommendations. We were really just looking for what actual services, programs, and resources are we looking to develop, which are the ones that we want to prioritize, and with the available resources that we have, how do we want to kind of put those resources behind these solutions? What populations or resources do we think we want to put the most investment behind? What do we think that we might need to fund at a lower scale?
Does anyone have any questions from Jeff before we begin? Yeah.
I believe I came into your office yesterday. I'm a domestic violence victim that has experienced homelessness, light, touch, medium, and heavy. Me and my kids have paid health condition. I've been bitten, I've been beaten, I've been raped. I literally played 2 months due to homelessness. I came with a Section 8 voucher. Yesterday when I came to your office to meet with you, I was just handing these papers and a call. This was the only help that was offered to me. I have a special needs child in level 2 autism that he's waiting for.
So in the interest of the time of the task force, I would be glad to connect with you individually. I was not present at my office when you stopped by, and we don't provide direct services, so we don't always have somebody in the office. I'd be glad to speak with you individually or get your contact information for follow-up, just so we can keep on schedule.
Yeah, and I'm happy to as well, because I work with a local domestic violence program. So afterwards, if you're good with it, we can stay and chat. Is that good? Thank you. All right, good. Does anyone have any questions of this exercise before we go forward? Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. If it's good with you all, we'll turn this over to Volunteers of America. So this is Jennifer Hancock and Tamara Rafe, and good to have you all here.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. Jennifer Hancock, I'm the President and CEO of Volunteers of America Mid-States, a proud University of Kentucky College of Social Work graduate, spent 8 years working here in Lexington at the Crisis Center and Chrysalis House before I returned to Louisville, my hometown. At VOA, thank you so much for 19 years. And we've been invited today to talk about a project that we're doing in Louisville and an array of homeless and housing services that we provide. But I can't help but recognize you, Reverend McFarland, for your comments earlier. You made such a poignant
point around the importance of keeping families together. And I want you to know that from the outset, Volunteers of America, and one of the reasons I've stayed 19 years and can't imagine doing anything else with a different organization, is because we honor the family in all that we do. We recognize that every member of the family is impacted when an individual experiences the crisis of not having stable housing. And so with that, I am going to get us started because I know we are limited in time. Volunteers of America, just briefly, we've been around 130 years operating quietly in communities. We started out as a volunteer mission, faith-based mission, and our founders wanted to express their faith by serving the most vulnerable amongst us. That has evolved over 130 years so that today we are a professional organization that's accredited by an international accrediting body. We are licensed to do business in Kentucky, and we're one of 29 affiliates across the country doing this kind of work. And our affiliate, Mid-States is what our affiliate name is. Headquartered here in Kentucky, we are also responsible for serving West Virginia, Tennessee, and Southern Indiana. So we are a regional organization, but because we're rooted in Kentucky, we have a high level of concentration of services here in Kentucky. And we have 7 lines of service, everything from addiction recovery. We provide services similar to Chrysalis House, where we take care of pregnant mamas and their babies and kiddos. And we do that in Louisville and Manchester, Kentucky, soon Lincoln County and Covington as well. We have a workforce reentry program where we take care of Kentuckians who aren't meaningfully employed and help them get matched, sometimes with a fair chance employer who's willing to accept a criminal history, or we work with them to get an expungement so that they're better capable and eligible to return to the workforce. And VOA Health, that's our community health workers and our services for individuals at risk of HIV, where we provide prevention testing and education. Our honor is a division devoted to veteran services, and that's the work that we do right here in Fayette County. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. VOA Community is services for those with disabilities. Justice is our restorative justice services for young people who may be on that school to prison pipeline. We divert them off by holding them accountable safely in the community, by having them make direct amends to the individuals that they've harmed and allowing the victim to have a voice and be heard in that process. And then finally, the reason that we're here today is our division called VOA Home, an array of services that you'll see in just a moment. I want to recognize our colleague Ann Vandervoort, who runs all of our veteran services here. She is in Washington, D.C. today with our national office at a wonderful leadership development program and sends her regards. You see at this photo, and the mayor and many of you were here when we opened our Veterans Community Center last year as part of the work that we're doing, funded by the federal government, supporting veterans and their families, a comprehensive case management service that we provide here in Lexington, and we're proud to do that. And now I want to tee up my colleague Tamara, who is truly our expert in all things housing and homeless services. We provide a unique family-focused program that is the only one of its kind in Jefferson County, where we don't make parents choose whether or not they must be separated from their children in order to receive crisis service and housing services. We keep families together. We have a 42-year track record of doing that so successfully. Tamara's going to speak to our outcomes. And it's really because of that program and this other array of program services where we're doing rapid rehousing, we're doing senior and permanent supportive housing, and we have a housing program for individuals who are HIV positive, and that's HOPWA. All of that is what teed us up to have an opportunity to do the community care campus, including Monarch Station, which is a new development that will soon be opening in May. It's 80 units of affordable housing, 20 units that are for those individuals who are chronically homeless because of a behavioral health disorder. And they have specialized services around the clock. Soon we'll be opening this, and we'd love to invite you to see what this program has in store. Also, we recently opened 34 additional units of permanent supportive housing, like every community across the Commonwealth. We need more of these specialty units, and under Tamara's leadership, we were able to open this in partnership with Louisville Metro Government. This is a Louisville Metro Government owned property. We are the provider in this case. And so we've recently opened those, and Tamara and her team are leasing individuals up. These are individuals who literally were in our Hope Village. Louisville has a Hope Village as well. So these are individuals who one day were living in a CVS hut, those huts that we used during COVID to get our shots and testing. They're now being repurposed as a temporary shelter for individuals who are unhoused. And so they have an opportunity to come immediately into what we call the Chancery. This is the community care campus. When Mayor Greenberg came into office in January of 23, he pledged during his campaign and on day one of taking office that he was going to double down on addressing the crisis of homelessness in the city of Louisville. Like most urban cities, we found that our downtown during COVID and post Breonna Taylor experienced an uptick in street homelessness. And so the mayor wanted to address that, and he wanted to do that by purchasing a city block of properties. And he said to the community, okay, providers, what do you want to do with this? Give me your best response to this RFP. VOA, like many of our sister and brother providers, did respond to that with two proposals. One, to expand our Unity House, which is our family shelter, because we know, because the data tells us, and we work with our partners at the Coalition for the Homeless, that we have more unhoused families. They're not visible because fortunately we don't live in a society, and I hope we never do, where kids are on sidewalks with cardboard signs, but we tend to see individuals. But the truth is we have many families living in vehicles, doubled up with relatives, sleeping on church basement floors, etc. So we came forward and said, we know how to do this really well, right? We've done it for 42 years. We'd like to replicate this program. So we submitted a proposal to expand our Unity House. In addition, we had this beautiful pro forma for 80 units of affordable housing. We'd just been through the entire process with LIHTC and all the financing. So we submitted a proposal to replicate Monarch Station on the campus. The mayor and his team called us in. They said, you had the highest scoring proposals of any of the respondents, and not only do we want you to do Unity House on this campus and more affordable housing on this campus, we actually want VOA to be the developer and the master partner for everything that is anticipated on this campus, which gave us an exciting opportunity to be in a unique seat of provider, developer, and community convener and collaborator, which is really why we're here today, to share our story of what's been working, lessons that we've learned. And of course, we don't have a lot of time in 15 minutes, so I'm going to keep going fast. But I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tamara, now, who oversees all of this work on our behalf and is helping us bring this project to life.
I'll tell you all about it in just a second. Yeah. Tamara Reif, I'm the Associate Vice President of Operations at VOA. I've been with VOA for almost 9 years and in the housing and homeless world since 2001. So that's all I've done my whole career is housing, homeless, domestic violence, sexual assault work. So currently we have on the campus, if we go back for a second, you can, oops, wrong way. Oh no, it won't let me go back. Oh, there we go. That middle brown building is the building we're going to talk about first. That building will stay, but currently it's operating as a temporary shelter. About 18 months ago, we realized that the new shelter wasn't going to open as quickly as we wanted to, but it was November and we were getting into inclement weather. So we converted this hotel to be temporary space until the shelter opens. And we've got 13 families that live in there now. In addition, we do inclement weather work as well with hotel stays. And your comment about inclement weather is not just in the wintertime, is a fight I fight all the time as well. So on the new Unity House will be in addition to the one we have now. So we house 24 families at our current Unity House, and we will add an additional 29. So if you think we've got 13 in the temporary shelter and currently I've got 16 in hotels, this shelter will fill up in a matter of days when it's open, and which indicates the huge need that we have for more family shelter. When a family comes to us in shelter, they are greeted at the door from the very beginning with meeting all of the needs that they have in order to be ready to move out and be successful when they leave. About 95% of our families that move out go to some type of permanent or transitional or rapid rehousing. And we stay with them for the long haul. We are available to them however long they need us. We have families that come back after being gone for a couple of years and want to check in, or have had a crisis and they need diapers or something like that, and we're able to stay in touch with them and connect them with resources. So we really try hard to do the whole wraparound. We serve the whole family. As long as there's a minor child involved, the adult makeup is not all that important. We have 2-parent couples, singles, single dads, single moms. Sometimes we have grandparents with raising grandchildren. Just a minor child is the most important part of being able to stay in shelter with us. We do the case management, housing placement in one of the programs that we offer. Usually that's where somebody will go to. We have rapid housing, permanent supportive housing, and we've got about 50 of those spots that we can refer people to. Expected shelter outcomes, 85% of families will exit to stable housing. It is really important, and not only locally, but HUD also expects that 75% of families are going to maintain stable income through employment. Thankfully, we've got our own program internally. We can refer people to that case manager whose job is every day to figure out how they can get our families better paying jobs or jobs that they are interested in working in. And then our kids, all of our kids are assessed for special needs and then referred out as appropriate. All of our kids go to school. We currently have about 45 kids going to about 25 different Jefferson County public schools, and we coordinate all of that, making sure that everybody has what they need to go to school. The respite care, we'll get to that one now. So family health centers will operate the respite care. It'll be 30 beds. Respite care is for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, who have had an incident probably on the street, or have had some kind of medical condition that doesn't warrant nursing home care, but that's just not safe for them to go back to the street. And so in order for them to stay with their medication, or if they have cancer treatments, or they have a broken leg, they'll be able to go to respite care, where there's 24-hour-a-day medical care who take care of them until they're ready to go back. Hopefully the goal is when they're with us, they are not going back to the street. They're actually during that time finding housing, so they don't have to go back to the street. So there's case managers involved. Everybody's kind of doing their thing. We're building this building, and the family health centers will operate it. They are the local entity that has the license to be able to do respite care. And they'll do that in partnership with U of L and Norton, because the hospitals are really on board with respite care, because it keeps people from returning to the emergency rooms repeatedly. And then that brown building that's currently a temporary shelter will get turned into transitional housing for young adults, 18 to 24. And that will be operated by our local YMCA Safe Place. They do all of that care right now. And we have, at any given time, about 150 18 to 24-year-olds that are homeless on our streets. They don't feel safe in the adult shelters. They are typically have been kicked out of their homes or are aged out of foster care. So YMCA Safe Place will be able to serve 27 youth while they're transitioning to permanent housing. So it's just a matter of getting people off the street so they've got the resources and the stability they need so they can be successful when they move on to their permanent housing. VOA's headquarters are going to move to this campus. So it's going to be a really unique experience to have the headquarters where people work for Volunteers of America in the same space where people live. And we're really excited about this opportunity. We'll also have partner space. So we've got about probably 15 to 20 partners identified at this point that will have a presence on the campus. One of the most important one is Louisville Metro Police Department will have an office that they can park their bikes for the bike patrol. They can go to the bathroom. They can get a cup of coffee. They can plug in their computers, but also just to interact with our families, with our kiddos that are on campus, and really encourage a healthy relationship with the police department. We'll have legal aid, the DCBS offices, mental health services, all of those will be in that partner space as well. Some once a week, some permanent. It just depends on what they're wanting to do. There is another building on the campus that we probably didn't point out very well, but it's going to have transitional housing apartments for our graduates from Freedom House, the recovery center that Jennifer mentioned, where women, when they graduate our program, we love to keep them close so we can help make sure that they are staying safe and sober on their journey. So we'll have 3 to 6 apartments for them to also come to. And then in the first floor of that, we will have some type of mental health services, some kind of drop-in center. We're still working on details for that part of the center. And then lastly, I think, is a second affordable housing. This is the Monarch Station that opens in May, but we intend to build 80 more units on the campus. We know that affordable housing is the biggest thing that we need right now. And so there's also not a lot to do around this campus as far as food and coffee shops and stuff go. So we may have some kind of grab and go in the basement, retail space, maybe some drop-in daycare, all kinds of things could be happening in that space. This is still yet to come. We have to work on what's happening in HUD and with Section 8 vouchers and all that stuff first, because it's important to have those for this to be successful. So that will be last. And then Jennifer, let's talk about all the people who have supported us.
So this is truly a community-wide effort. This is a public-private partnership. You can see this very long list of partners that are donors, that are funders, that are other providers that have helped us build the design for this, as well as bringing it to life. I want to talk a little bit about the funding now. So this is north of a $38 million project. That's everything except for the affordable housing component. We have a separate pro forma for that exists over here until we sort out the issues around HUD vouchers. We've segregated that from the overall project budget. We were able to receive a $22.5 million allocation from the General Assembly during the last budget session. So that was part of the historic funding that was made to Louisville Metro. Both the state and House leadership, as well as the mayor's office, pledged the first $22.5 million of that funding to the community care campus, really recognizing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It doesn't make sense to revitalize the Belvedere or convert offices downtown to residential if we're not taking care of the most vulnerable in our community first. So this was the top priority. In addition to that, VOA is a little bit of a fundraising engine ourselves. We've got donors, we've got funding partners. So we took those dollars and went out to corporations, foundations, and private individuals who care about this topic and care about these vulnerable populations. And we have raised nearly $10 million of private support, which is important because we're back in front of Frankfurt right now with another request of $10 million to close off the gap that we need in order to complete every component on this campus. Again, that's everything less of the 80 units of affordable housing. And you can see the many different individuals, corporations, and funders that have stepped forward. This has been, and I've done a lot of fundraising in my time, this has been one of the easiest projects to raise money for. It really has been, because the case is so compelling and the return on investment, whether you're looking at it from a pure economic standpoint or the social return on investment, we look at both, is very clear and compelling here. We would love to invite you to come. It takes 65 minutes to get there to the community care campus. Well, depending on how fast you drive, sorry. 80 minutes to get there. And we would love you to come take a tour. And we are doing hard hat tours all the time. To see it is to believe it. To hear us talk about it is one thing. To be on that campus and see it in renovation mode right now, to see the temporary shelter, also to see how we do Unity House today. We would welcome an opportunity to show you our shelter system at VOA and how we're taking care of whole families today and creating that outcome that Tamara said that I want to highlight again. 95% of the time, families leave us to the next best place. They're not cycling back through. With that, we'll open it up if we have time, Madam Chair.
So I've never seen Tamara talk so loud or talk so fast in all my life. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
So we have minimal time.
I'm
So a
sweating
few
up here.
questions, but I do
going
know
so
we could
fast.
probably send you all questions if we
Yes,
have
we would love
them.
that. We would
So we can
welcome that.
definitely do that. And then committees, I'm probably going to reduce you down to maybe about 5 minutes as opposed to 7 minutes, because I'm sure somebody might have a question. So anybody from the board have a question at the moment?
Diane, if I could jump in, I
Yes.
think one really good question, if we only get one, is
Okay.
how did you pay for it? And not just the upfront, but the ongoing
Okay.
expense. Like, how will the operating be paid for?
So we have an individual operating pro forma for each of these components. And while VOA is the master planner for these projects, Family Health Centers is the FQHC. They're billing Medicaid for those medical respite services. VOA is a behavioral health services organization. We bill for targeted case management, clinical services. We have a commitment from the city of Louisville to continue to pay for some of the operations of that. We're going to continue to fundraise too. This will always be a public-private partnership. It is our philosophy. We never to come to a single government entity believing that you're the sole source. We know that's inappropriate. We know that's not sustainable. So we've made a commitment that we will continue to braid funding for each of these components that we're responsible for. And then we worked with those other providers to ensure that they can cash flow and have a plan of sustainability from day one. So whether that's billing Medicaid for medical respite, we're even doing some innovative payment reform at VOA, value-based contracting with MCOs where we're paid for real outcomes rather than a fee-for-service model, which is where I think Medicaid reform is going to take us naturally. We're getting ahead of that, and we're already engaged with value-based payments with our MCOs, with the 5 in Kentucky, and then anything else you would want to say about ongoing.
In order to operate the family emergency shelter, we have a grant from HUD that is a joint rapid rehousing transitional housing grant that funds the majority of it, and then the rest of it comes from external agency funds from Metro Council.
I so appreciate you all. I wish we could talk to you so much longer. Please, if you have questions, yeah, we can clap. Please, if you have questions,
Thank you
please
so
send
much.
them to me or to Tiffany. We will get them to them. We will send it out to the group. If you don't have email, write it down. We will get that information and we will get that to you all. And we'll set a tour up. Because we
Charlie
really
has
have
our
to.
contact information too, if you
Wonderful.
want to email us directly.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank
All
you
right.
all so
Thank
much.
you all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move to the subcommittee report. Sorry, I've knocked you down a few minutes. We're going to do hopefully about 5 minutes. So TC, you are up first, supportive services and prevention services. 5 minutes is going to be difficult. You can do it.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna skim through, highlight some points because all of our minutes is included into the packet and you all can read them. And if you have any questions, please forward it to us. But I do want to thank our committee because we've been hard at it. We've been really working hard. So we've been actually looking at, after our community table talk pretty much, we came up with some notes from that, which is case management challenges and solutions. So we looked at that. We talked about and discussed that case management is definitely one of the things that we need to look into, helping our folks that are experiencing homelessness to continue to have someone that actually walks them through the process. We recognize that there are people out there that you can't just hand them a piece of paper and say, hey, here's the resources, go for it. So we need those services. High case management, caseload and staffing was one of the things that the community partners shared with us, that and we know that's related to funding, and it's also related to training. I know that David talked about that in depth at the Hope Center, that training and being able to maintain good staff is a part of it, and they realize that high turnover for staff members, how to retain staff, needing to centralize specialized case management and the training in that particular area altogether. Funding and resources allocation strategies. So we started looking at those, focusing on funding established through programs that are already established, redirecting and coordinating existing funding, like, making sure that our funding is going to the sources that can maintain some of those areas like case management. Linking funding to enhance case management and diversion. I know that we've talked in depth about diversion, and that's one of the things that Jeff and I really talk about, is how do we help our families and individuals to keep them before they actually are out there homeless. How can we help them not lose everything and be able to continue in a program that's going to help them sustain their housing? Incorporating long-term state funding models. David talked about to us and intensively on support for homelessness individuals and mental health. And we know mental health is one of our challenges that we are facing in our community. Not just with our adults, but with our students, with our children are experiencing. And just to put a pin in there is that when our young people are experiencing homelessness, they are trying to come to school with a baggage loaded with, where am I going to sleep tonight? Am I going to have something to eat? Is my granny going to be okay? So we know that is for our young people trying to come to school and trying to matriculate through their educational day with that extra baggage on them. Expanding to community partners engagement. We talked about a table talk. One of the things I did last year was I started community table talk with 10 community partners. By the end of the school year, we had 98. So kind of how do we capitalize all of our community partners that are providing services and resources in our community? addressing low attendance at existing meetings. That was one of the things we discussed, and that goes back to poverty assimilation. There was only a few of us there, but Fayette County Public Schools will be doing another one, so you have another opportunity. And even if you have experienced it, I also challenge you to do it again, because this was like my 4th time, and every time it is a different experience. And I tell you, the debriefing part of it was very intensive, and you need to experience that to get some understanding of what poverty and homelessness goes together. So understanding that. And then I know my time is running out, but it's all in our minutes. If there, as you go through and look at those, if you have any questions, please email us, or you're welcome to come to our committee meetings and continue our discussion. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And don't forget to go back to the QR code. So if somebody says, go ahead and pop onto your QR code for the exercise. So Zach, are you ready to do the next committee? And this is funding and partnerships.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Diane. And I think you've already referenced that our committee is anxious to more fully understand the will of the entire task force on what specific areas we want to focus on, what specific projects or outcomes we may want to see, so we can start to think about strategic partnerships and funding opportunities for those. So we have continued, as I've reported last couple times, just information gathering. We did in our last meeting spend some time with Rick McQuady discussing the Affordable Housing Fund, and I think in our upcoming meetings, as we're still waiting to understand, again, the direction that the task force wants to go, we'll continue to look at some maybe potential policy recommendations, particularly for the Affordable Housing Fund, and how we can support or incentivize more permanent supportive housing. That was a big discussion with Rick, and we'll continue that discussion, and maybe some of the ways we can talk about capacity building for our nonprofit community to participate in more substantial rental projects using those funds. That was I think a good discussion that will continue while we're waiting for some more informed thoughts from the larger task force. I'll give a few minutes back to someone else.
Thank you so much. And we're hoping to give you some more solid and concrete direction soon. So next, Tyler Morton and Amy Beasley regarding Pier City and shelter models.
Thank you. So the committee had originally scheduled a presentation from VOA. However, that presentation was postponed for the full task force, which was received today. That was a great presentation. I think they're going. But the committee began the meeting by reflecting on feedback from the Homelessness Task Force shelter tour. Members shared their observation and emphasized both the impact and importance of the work being done to address homelessness in our community. There was strong acknowledgement of the significant need for shelter services, as well as appreciation for the organizations and staff working directly with individuals experiencing homelessness. Following this discussion, the committee moved into an open dialogue focused on key considerations for developing a guidance/criteria to guide future shelter development. The goal of this conversation was to begin identifying factors that could help inform a framework for sitting and developing shelters for both support individuals experiencing homelessness and address community concerns. While the conversation covered a wide range of topics, several central themes emerged that we will dive into at future meetings. These themes included capacity and scalability. The committee discussed the importance of considering both capacity and scalability when evaluating shelter models. Members emphasized the need for systems that can adapt to changing demand while remaining sustainable over time. Shelter capacity and service gaps. The discussion reaffirmed the need for additional emergency shelter beds, as many existing shelters regularly operate at or above overcapacity. During periods of increased demand, overflow solutions are often required to meet community needs. Members also identified several populations that face barriers accessing caring shelters, including but not limited to families with children, individuals with pets, individuals who are medically fragile, individuals actively experiencing substance use disorders. Addressing these service gaps will be important consideration in future shelter planning and development. Zoning and land use. Members discussed how zoning and land use policies can influence shelter sightings. The winter shelter location was referenced as an example in the conversation, comparing the use of city-owned properties versus private properties and how those distinctions may impact decision-making and funding opportunities. community impact and engagement. The committee emphasized the importance of proactive community engagement and transparency throughout the process. Members discussed strategies to keep neighborhoods informed while also working to address concerns constructively well before and after development. Service integration. There was a discussion about the importance of integrating services alongside shelter locations to support stability and long-term outcomes for residents. And then lastly, equity and distribution. It was highlighted the need to consider equitable distribution across the community with the emphasis on avoiding disappropriate placement of shelters in historically underserved neighborhoods and preventing overconcentration in any single area. Overall, the discussion served as an initial step towards identifying guiding principles that could inform future policy recommendations related to shelter development. For the next meeting, the committee is looking to schedule a presentation from Pierce City Shelter in Austin, Texas, as well as continue to discuss criteria to guide future shelter development.
Thank you. I so much appreciate you. And I'm so sorry I'm making everybody talk so fast, but thank you so much. It's a lot of really good work. Next, we have community engagement, and Jenny Ramsey is not here. So Mr. Ellinger, it is all on you tonight.
Thank you. The Community Engagement Subcommittee met on March 4th by Zoom. Our mission statement, as you can read there, is community engagement, develop strategy to engage residents, businesses, and neighborhood organizations to ensure transparency, reduce misinformation, and build consensus to the extent feasible around siting and service delivery. We discussed the listening sessions that we've had so far. The first one we had was on February 12th at the Street Voice Council. There was 53 that attended the Street Voice Council, 6 council members and 2 support staff were there. And we'll be having summaries of all the questions. I don't want to put them all in here, but we'll be having the summaries. We had the Commerce Lexington Business Committee met on the 26th. And Todd, if you would just give a 30-second update of what happened at that would be helpful.
Sure. I just forwarded this out to everyone. I was tardy in getting it to Tiffany to get in the packet, but I just emailed it to everybody that was there. So I'll just go over the top things that was covered real quick. Public safety was probably the #1 concern for businesses that were there expressing their views on how the homelessness is impacting them. Aggressive and verbal behavior, threats of violence, drug use, and things like that on their property. Security issues for their employees was up there. And then probably #2 right behind that was economic and operational impacts that was on their businesses. One company noted that they paid $75,000 a year last year for private security just for the weekends. Another business representative there noted that since a services provider had moved in very close to their property, one of their anchor tenants in their property had lost their sales were down over $1 million the first year that was in place. So again, as Tyler, Mr. Morton said, concentration of services seem to be a theme in ours as well, impacting businesses in areas where you've got a lot of services all in one place. So if there's anything else that you can remember, Chuck.
I think that's a good summary. We'll be having the full summary in the April packet. And then we met yesterday for the faith leaders. And Reverend McFarland, if you would just give a brief update. We were in a committee meeting, so I couldn't attend, but I know that was well attended.
So on yesterday, we hosted the Faith Leaders Listening Session, and we were able to give context to many of the faith leaders about the homelessness crisis in our community. And many of the faith leaders expressed that there's not enough communication on this issue. Many of them felt that they're out of the loop. One of the pressing things is that many churches have their own outreach services to this issue. They spoke to that. And of course, there is an agreement to unify around this in ways in which the faith community can help. One of the things that they mentioned coming out of this is that they really want the city to deliver. They feel like that we have been, this has been an ongoing issue and we've done nothing about it but just talk. And so they really want us to deliver after we get through this period of investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next one's going to be on March 25th, and I'll be with the neighborhood councils. Tana Folk and I are working on that. I know Tana has contacted many of the neighborhoods that are going to be a part of this. We've contacted over 200 of the neighborhoods, and we've talked to the neighborhood council. So that will be by Zoom at 3:00. We're working on with Jay Blanton for the public safety one in April, and then we'll have a general public one in May. And we adjourned after that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, I'm so glad you all brought that up too. I kind of want to give a nod to law enforcement and the paramedicine folks, because I know you all have been attending this pretty regularly. And I think there will be more of a call to bring you all in, particularly when we have an idea of what this space is going to look like and the location of it. So thanks for hanging in with us, and we appreciate your presence here today. So I think I've stuck with time pretty well. So I think we're now moving into the review recommendations and the service buckets result. And we wanted to give about 25-ish minutes for that. So that is our subcommittee reports, and I think we're ready to do the exercise follow-up.
All right. So Adam is going to help me by bringing up the responses that we've received. If you've not yet gotten a chance to put in your answers, it does pull this up 5 times, so feel free to go ahead and continue to add responses. We're going to start by reviewing the input that we had around the light touch interventions. All right, so I did want to ask a question, and obviously you don't have to put yourself on the spot, but we did have a couple of responses that just said eviction. And so I was a little bit curious what the actual kind of resource or program or solution that was intended with that response. If there's something a little bit more that you can tell us, didn't know if anybody wanted to share who might have given that response. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and just touch on some of the other themes that we're seeing. We did have several responses that were related to prevention and diversion services. That includes short-term rental assistance and relocation assistance, but also prevention services for people that are facing eviction specifically. There's also a couple of responses that are clear that they want to see a higher level of life skills development and case management that goes along with those kinds of financial assistance programs. We had programs to work on budgeting, for example, and then looks like we had another one for expanded job placement services, especially second chance employment. And Adam, I'm not sure if you're able to scroll. There's one that's cut off there towards the bottom. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, making services available before they, and I'm going to assume actually are evicted. Generally speaking, a lot of times rental assistance programs, because they have limited resources, cannot help somebody until they are already behind in their rent. Sometimes people are proactive about their situation, but because of regulations and policies, can't actually access until they are already in a situation where they are at risk of eviction. So we might be able to find strategies that can more proactively serve individuals. Can we go up a response? All right, and program to work on budget and increasing income for marginally housed or newly homeless people. So this is something that you've heard TC talked about, the Hands Up for Housing program. That is a program that through partnership with Fayette County Public Schools and Goodwill and LFUCG, it actually can do the work of helping people obtain employment and obtain employment that is more sustainable, or that gets them a little bit more of an income that can support housing. So it's important that we think about not just having those financial assistance resources available, but having supports and services that go along with them. All right. It looks like we still have the same number of responses. So we can go ahead and check in with the next group, the moderate touch solutions. All right. In this group, we are going to see, again, that these are individuals that oftentimes face systemic factors that are involved in their housing insecurity or homelessness. So some of this is going to involve programs that would increase income or improve employment, daycare for families, Definitely going to be a challenge to sustain work and to be able to afford housing if they do not have access to affordable childcare. Financial assistance for those that are on a fixed income and sometimes dip below their monthly expenses. I think this ties in with another that I saw, gap funding to support rent for those with fixed incomes. Some people might just need a little bit of light ongoing assistance rather than one-time emergency assistance to prevent eviction. There's only so many prevention resources, and sometimes we might need to think about how we can shift that to support someone ongoing rather than one time. Accessible senior housing with access to community, like shared housing models. Dedicated transitional housing units, specifically for cases that are falling in this category. Services to help people improve their skills and status. Seeing several notes here about transitional housing units. And more family and single parent households, including shelter, housing navigation, case management, tax filing assistance at housing location. So it looks like a lot of this is around short-term housing, but infusing it with elements of community and service on site. All right, and then we'll take a look at the heavy touch recommendations, and then we can kind of frame this with some additional conversation if there's something you didn't get a chance to add, or a specific model that you want us to look at in implementing these types of recommendations. So for heavy touch, we're going to see several responses that are going to touch on a need for permanent supportive housing, including the caveat of one answer saying locally funded. Obviously, when we rely on federal funds, there are a lot of limitations on who can be served, how they can be served. Also see a mention of site-based models with on-site supports, very similar to what we saw with the transitional housing that was proposed. There's a recommendation here for a program similar to stable recovery, which we heard from the last task force meeting. Dedicated group homes. I think this is something that we should definitely keep in the conversation. We do not see a lot of group homes or boarding homes like we would have seen in years past. For example, I previously worked for New Beginnings, an organization that does supportive services and housing for individuals with serious mental illness. They have 2 supported living homes, and they only have 3 residents in each of those homes. Most of the time, those homes are going to have, per their funding, set certain populations that they can serve, like those that are exiting institutions like Eastern State Hospital or Central Kentucky Recovery Center, or those who are covered under the Olmstead Act. So knowing that there is very few of those beds available and how many different layers of eligibility there are, that's not something that is going to be easily accessible to the average person experiencing homelessness. That would be something that could help somebody that has significant disabilities retain their independence and have somewhere that they can live that is safe and affords them with dignity. Physical one-on-one help for people who are really searching and preventing homelessness with extreme barriers. I think this kind of goes to some of the comments that we've heard about a higher level of housing navigation, that people need more than a referral or a list of resources. Expanded day center services for people that are asked to leave overnight spaces. Expanded access to payee programs. Medical respite for medical issues that don't warrant hospitalization. We do have a short-term medical respite program, and we are trying to support our partners at Health First Bluegrass as they attempt to launch a longer-term program. But definitely what we are seeing when we are in our winter response, we have a small scale program for folks that are elderly or disabled who can't safely navigate our winter shelter. And during our weather event, we had all of those rooms full, plus several folks that were in overflow rooms, just because the need is so great. Again, we're thinking about a population that has limited access to health care, to insurance, to preventative care. Therefore, they often come to us and present with more complex, serious issues by the time that we are connecting with them. All right, low barrier shelter with heavy service intervention that moves towards a housing situation or housing solution. Definitely that's been a through thread since the time of the emergency shelter study. We do have the challenge of needing to still find a way to keep people safe, even if they might have proven a challenge to maintain in our congregate shelters. More transitional housing for the SMI population. Serious mental illness. And it looks like, did we get all of those? Housing for sex offenders with case management. This is definitely something that we need to be aware of. Obviously, those that would have location requirements, it could make it a challenge for us to find them housing. That doesn't even consider what housing might be affordable or that might work with their background. Just the actual locations that are in compliance. It would be very challenging for us to find that. And honestly, we see that need a lot within the population. Expanded low barrier emergency shelter beds, and mental health and addiction crisis centers to serve as drop-in facilities for individuals in need of support. We have to remember that people choose things like treatment and mental health care when they are ready. It's important that we have services that are readily available and accessible to them when they do make that choice. So Tiffany and Diana, I didn't know if you want to maybe add any words or help extend this conversation further.
I don't really. I mean, I think it's a piece that we don't always have a lot of time here to kind of share across committee. So it's really helpful. I think if anybody has some questions, I wanted to kind of give a little time to open up for our guests that are here to sit in for our task force and open it up to the board. But I don't know if anybody has any last minute comments for this exercise.
And we'll also, in my office, synthesize all of this into a summary or report for the next packet.
Great. Thank you. Tiffany? Good. Okay. Are we reading it? Do you want to read it? You read it. Sure. Okay.
We do have one person here for public comment. It's Curtis Scharf. Scharf, Mr. Scharf, and you have 2 minutes. Do you want him to come up? You can go.
I wasn't aware I was going to be able to speak today, but anyway, I will go ahead here and thank you, Mayor, council members, as well as committee members for letting me speak. I'm Curtis Scharf, and I own property along with my partners from 1236 to 1260 Versailles Road, which houses Purple Haze, Double H Barbecue, and Old Rally's store, which they also have a hub there which services over 70 stores. We are very concerned with the safety of the people that are homeless, very much so. In fact, all three of us do work in Lighthouse ministries and so on and serving people. So we are wanting the safety for those people, definitely. And the business has severely dropped in many of the locations of retail stores. In fact, in some have even made the comment across the street and so on at Thornton's that if they didn't stop the pilferage and everything, they're going to have to close the doors. So anyway, but some of the things I wanted to just bring up that I put down here rapidly was the problems that they're having in the retail stores so much is theft in the stores, trash that is thrown around all the area there, plus the jaywalking, which is very much of concern to us because we don't want anybody getting killed or hurt there. And they've used the bathroom in our parking lot. And they also have, as soon as cars do come in the parking lot, they've been approached by people that are from up on the hill there on 1306 that asking for monies, food, anything like that. And some of the people just put their windows up, as Ernie and Bill with Double H Barbecue said, and just drive off that have been regular customers. We've also had sleeping on sidewalks, as well as numerous fights. There's been broken glasses in Purple Haze in the windows as well as the door. So except we've also been told, I did not witness myself, but they said there have been people that have been bussed in from other counties. Now, I don't know if that is true or not, but I was told that. Also, one of the retailers had a knife pulled on them from some of the people. So anyway, let's just say we are very concerned. And since we had a meeting Friday night at 5:30 and Major Barnett and two other gentlemen were there, as well as a lady, and they vouched that they would give us help with the police department. And they've done a beautiful job since last Friday. Yeah, we thank you so much. But what we're asking for and what we're looking at is, because Versailles Road is such a heavily traveled avenue that we want to see it relocated, and we have come up with a place that we think that would be good for relocation is out at the on Old Frankfurt Pike. The old armory there, which is police do have an office and everything there, and there is the area there where the city dump is. It is paved in many places, which would provide a good area to put up tents and temporary housing for food as well as sleeping. But we would like to see it move to that location or another location that the city does own. But thank you for, actually, I wasn't prepared to speak, but anyway, thank you for the time.
Thank you for being here.
And like I said, we were willing to work with you all in any way we can.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you for bringing that concern to our attention, and thank you for considering the needs of the people that need those services. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
We have a little more time if anybody else would like to do a 2-minute public comment. Is there anybody as part of the board or any of our visitors have anything to add? Tana?
Yes, I would like to, I've missed some meetings, so I don't know if this is already happening. But, really?
You do.
Well, I've been practicing
They asked me to ask the
my
microphone.
inside voice. I've been practicing.
We're recording.
Is this okay? I've missed a couple of meetings, but I don't know if Ed Holmes has been able to do a presentation to this task force. Has he already presented at the very beginning? And is some of that 250,000, he did a study. So are we looking at anything that he recommended out of that study that he did?
We are, and actually, Charlie, you might want to speak to it as well. But I think when we met together with the committee chairs, that was definitely the recommendation of all of us to not forget that work that was done, that we need to kind of go back to reference it. I mentioned it just really briefly, but I knew we didn't have much time. I think it's always in our, front and center with us. But I think as we get together with the peer shelter model committee and the social service committee, we will bring his work to that and kind of work from that.
So I was thinking, so when I worked with him on council and looking at the VOA model, and I remember my first meeting here when people was asked to think about places we could go to look at models. And I said, we only have to go 80 miles down the road. They've got one of the best models I know. And I'm so glad that they were here today, because that was absolutely fantastic. And as we look, and as I look at Judge Gunther, and she has that program of mediation that keeps people from evictions, because I've heard that in here today. I am so happy that we are really digging in, and hopefully 10 years down the road, like Reverend McFarland said, there were so many pastors on there talking about, we were talking about this 20 years ago. And so that was some of their comments on the faith leaders listening session yesterday. So just putting all that to work, and I know we have to hopefully not do any more studies, but carefully look at this. I call it, I think we're in crisis. And so thank you for the Versailles Road report, because it's very important. And that's in the 11th district, isn't it? It's been in the 1st district for over 20 years, I think it is. So thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's interesting as we're doing this work, when we first got together, it was almost an overwhelming task. And I think we felt a little untethered. I think it's beginning to now kind of gel a little bit. We've heard information. We're seeing model programs. It's beginning maybe to take a little shape. So I so appreciate everybody's work. If there aren't any other comments, please. Yes.
One, I think cannot be answered today, but I would ask it just for the sake of maybe future meetings. With all of the service groups in Fayette County, I wonder whether we can get our arms around what a budget for total gap funding might be for people that are in this light to medium touch that need, some assistance, maybe a one-off assistance to stay where they are, what that number might look like. I know there are a lot of groups that are providing that. And if we could somehow get our arms around what that number might look like, it would be helpful to me to understand, because so many of those folks can be kept out of worse situations potentially if they're given that leg up. The other question I have probably can be answered by somebody here that's much more expert in this, but I don't understand what the needs of the community are with regard to sex offenders, what needs to happen with those folks. I know there are lots of restrictions, but where do they go? What do you do? And then I'm sure you've got a significant number of males, I would assume, but I assume there's females as well. And so what are some of the solutions that these communities may be doing? Louisville clearly did not address that in their community thing, obviously. But if it's an issue in Lexington, which it appears to be, what are the requirements? What are the needs for that?
Does anybody want to chat about that? Oh, David, and then Tom.
This has been an issue. The issue with sex offenders has been an issue for as long as I've been doing this. And I think it is something that we don't talk about a lot because it's not popular. It's not one of those things that people want to take on, but it is a very big issue. There isn't a day goes by that we don't get a sex offender that comes into the Hope Center that we can't serve. And you know what? There is no place in Lexington to refer them. There's no place in Louisville to refer them. It isn't just a gap in Lexington, it's a gap everywhere. And, we used to have more options and those have sort of closed up over the years. There are just no resources. And I think I don't have an idea of how many sex offenders are homeless in Lexington because it's hard to count. I'd be curious if the sheriff's office has that kind of information, but it is a significant problem, and I think it's one that, as I think Diane mentioned earlier, it goes beyond just where to place a homeless sex offender. It's also how do we get them out of homelessness, because there are limitations in where they can rent. Chances are they're going to have low income and aren't going to be able to afford a lot of the options. And if those options are too close to school or daycare or what have you, then they're not options. So, I mean, this is a big problem. And I wish I had an answer. I don't, but those are some of the things that we see on a very regular basis.
It's a conversation that I've briefly had with Jeff Herron a few times. I used to work at the sheriff's office, and the Megan's Law office was in my office because it was victim services, but there has been changes with the sex offender registry, and I'm not quite current on that. And I sometimes can't tell if it's a programs issue or if it's the law issues on how they register. So we can definitely reach out with the sheriff's office to get more specifics about it. But Tana, I know you had a
Yes.
answer to that too, or a comment.
Thank you. 8 pastors and myself, there's 8 pastors who is living out Matthew 25 to the least of these. They are our modern day lepers. We know that they're on the street. According to Sheriff Witt, a couple of years ago, there was over 550 sex offenders that's roaming the streets of Lexington. I don't know what that count is now. So 8 pastors and myself, we got together and we have housing. One of the problems that we're running into is the city ordinance where it says only 5 can be in a house, where with the sober living, I think the council members voted 8 people could live in a house. And so what we're running into now is those people who have served over 40 years who committed their crime before 2006 can live anywhere. Those sex offenders can live anywhere in the city if they committed the crime before 2006. Anything after 2006 is the 1,000-foot rule. The General Assembly just passed a rule for new offenders. It will be 3,000 feet, but it's not retroactive. So I can tell you that part. And it is hard. It is problematic. What we have started with is our veteran sex offenders who served our country but committed a crime. And so we have a few veteran sex offenders. They have case management, they report, they committed a crime before 2006. So there are a few places, and we do get some referrals from the Hope Center, but and they go through a program. And then we have right now 2 owners of properties that's outside resident of 1,000 feet that will allow them to rent a single unit once they go through the program. And so that's what's happening now. I don't know if you all know, but when people come out of prison, they can register Lexington or any other city, but I know Lexington as a homeless sex offender with the address downtown. They can use that address and they're out. So I don't know how many live in the Catalina. Those folks usually come from the Rotor Farm or one of the real hard prisons, and they're placed in the Catalina. Some are over to the extended stay. That's the residence that they use. Some are over at the Bryan Station Inn, but I think they are illegally over there and they're trying to home in on that. But that's what I know about sex offenders on Lexington's. So we know where 12 of them are, and we get a lot of pushback from the sheriff's department and probation and parole. But we know where 12 of them are. We can put our finger on 12, but we can't put our finger on 550. And so that's an issue in Lexington. It's real. And I would much rather know where 12 of them are than 550. And so why do I do this? With 12 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren, of which 9 of them are under the age of 12. I did not choose this mission. It chose me. And so that's what 8 pastors and I are doing. Hopefully, the law that's before the General Assembly that will allow churches to build affordable housing on their land, if that passes, that may alleviate some of this housing issue. So that is my expertise of bringing you all up to speed. And yes,
I'm glad you chose this meeting.
Sheriff Witt should come, maybe.
We'll dig in with Sheriff Witt. And thank you for being here at this meeting. Yes, ma'am. We've got like 1 minute. Can you do it? Can you do a microphone? Oh, yeah. Cut you off, but I've been strictly given a
If all
time.
men are at the Hope Center, why is it that they will not let sex offenders live at the Hope Center of their man? Because of the YMCA? Well, we need to give close attention to making provisions for sex offenders, especially after they serve their time. We don't need to push a person back into crime when they've already served the time. So let us, brothers and sisters, consider that.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think that is going to bring our meeting to its close. Don't forget, we've changed the date for the next meeting, and it is going to be April 15th at the Pam Miller Downtown Arts Center, 3rd floor, Lowenthal Room. Tiffany will send that out. It is at 3:30, same time. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Diane, real
Yeah.
quickly,
Yeah.
I want to shoot this out there. We are in need of volunteers for our academic challenge.
TC's
for-
always plugging. Go.
Yes, I got a plug for the babies. James Lane Allen, Mary Todd, and Taste Creek Elementary are going to be participating in their academic challenge this weekend, and they need volunteers. So if you have some high schoolers or know some college students or yourselves or family members that would like to help, I have some flyers with the information on it.
Thank you, TC. Thank you all.
Mhm.